Hello everyone, this is part 6 of What If Naruto Made the Ultimate Sacrifice, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Naruto continued in a contemplative tone, "Aren't the Chunin exams starting today?" Sakura's eyes widened as she realized the genin was indeed right. She looked through the window as the sun was quite high in the sky. "I think they've already started." Naruto looked at his clock. It was late in the morning. "You're a Chunin, right? Won't they need you?" Sakura nodded her head, but her mind wasn't currently on whether she had to be at the exams. "They do, but..." Naruto placed his hands behind him before tilting his head in Sakura's direction. "But what?" Sakura sighed. "But first, I want you to tell me." The Jinchuriki raised an eyebrow before the medic continued, "Everything about your condition." XXXXXXXXXX. Sasuke observed all the genin preoccupied with their written exam, with keen eyes, as he tried to locate the ones obviously cheating. He was one of many people seated on the side, who were overlooking the written exam. The Sharingan wielder noticed a boy attempting to take a look at the paper of the girl next to her. Instantly, he threw a kunai which landed on the desk, startling the boy as well as others seated around him. He didn't say anything, instead staring with an intimidating look. The genin rose from his position with his teammates before leaving the classroom. The black-haired teen's mind was still in disarray from the previous night. His encounter with Naruto was deeply engraved in his thoughts and he could remember every detail of it. He shook his head in order to rid himself of any drowsiness as he hadn't been able to sleep at all during the night. He found it difficult to remain on task with so many issues dominating his thoughts. He still didn't know why Naruto was training so much, especially if he had such little time left. However, the one thing he still couldn't come to terms with was the fact that Naruto was going to die. Scanning through the crowd of examinees, he drew 2 kunai, throwing them to the desks of a few more genin he had caught. Watching them leave, he knew that his presence as a proctor was unfair since he could easily see how the majority of the class was attempting to cheat. He singled out those whose methods of information gathering were not up to a sufficient degree. Feeling himself being watched, he turned to the front of the classroom and into the eyes of Nara Shikamaru. Shikamaru diverted his concentration elsewhere upon being noticed. He could sense the lingering eyes of the Uchiha on him. He coughed as he kept his lazy demeanor, staring at the participants of the exam. The number of people left had been drastically reduced, mainly due to Sasuke. The exam had started with over 40 teams, but they were now down to only 13. His mind quickly left the genins taking the exam and started to analyze the actions of the Uchiha. He was indifferent to the Sharingan wielder. The retrieval mission of Sasuke from 3 years prior was something he wouldn't forget anytime soon. He had almost lost his best friend as well as coming close to being K himself. He wasn't concerned that Sasuke returned after his betrayal because it had ultimately brought calm to Naruto, who he saw as a friend. Even though most people couldn't realize, he knew the blonde was finally happy that he had returned his best friend. Nonetheless, something about Naruto's recent behavior had made him suspicious of what was going on. The mission to defeat Orochimaru was something that he could explicitly remember. It was his second time crossing paths with Akatsuki and the first time he had seen the legendary Snake Sannin. His mind loitered on the notorious organization whose motives were unknown to him. It was apparent on that day that they were there to kill Orochimaru, but when they realized the presence of Naruto, they wanted to capture him as well. He didn't know what made the S-class criminals want to capture his friend, but he thought it might be to do with his transformation. The frightening sight of Naruto once he had undergone that radical change made him freeze with shock. The power he had seen being radiated was amazing, but the most disturbing thing was that the chakra surrounding him gave a menacing vibe. He quickly glanced at Sasuke to see that he was once again resuming his duties. Shikamaru knew that the Uchiha was being bothered by something. He had never seen Sasuke seem so troubled. His mind analyzed the recent events with Naruto as well as the uneasy presence of Sasuke. He couldn't help but feel that they were connected in some shape or form. He needed some more evidence in order to be completely sure of his speculation. XXXXXXXXXX. Naruto and Sakura walked towards the Hokage Tower. He had told her everything about his condition as well as the amount of time he had remaining. After having gotten cleaned up and getting something to eat, he decided to go with Sakura to see Tsunade since there was a possibility of him getting a training ground which was out of the way. He had his hands behind his head as he walked side by side with the kunoichi. Sakura had a neutral expression on her face, but she was inwardly trying to think of any way to solve Naruto's problem. They continued walking until they saw three figures heading towards them in the distance. Naruto voiced his thoughts. Who's that? Sakura looked closer as she could make out the boy in the middle waving at them. She couldn't believe they couldn't tell who it was since the large white dog was a giveaway. Naruto took a step back as he realized a rushing white blur heading for him. Whoa, wait. He put his hands out as Akamaru stopped immediately in front of him. Kiba jumped off the back of his companion as his teammates caught up to him. Looking at the blonde, he gave a greeting. Oi, Naruto. Where have you been, eh? You should keep in contact with your friends. Hinata gave a short bow to the two shinobi, with a red face. Gee, good to see you, Naruto-kun, Sakura-san. Shino merely gave a nod acknowledging their presence. Naruto patted Akamaru's head as the dog enjoyed the feeling. Gomen, I don't get much time these days. Kiba, not really understanding what he meant, looked at Sakura to his side. A grin formed across his face. So, looks like you've finally hooked up. He rubbed his nose trying to get a rise out of the Jinchuriki. Hinata gave a small gasp believing the words of the dog user. Shino turned to Kiba, speaking. Kiba, this mission is time-based. We should get going. Kiba waved off the bug user. I know. We can spare a few minutes. Shino looked nonchalant behind his hood and glasses. No, we can't. Kiba ignored the aberrame and was about to tease the blonde again before he realized a red mark on Sakura's neck. He pointed, realizing the obvious bite mark. Wait, you really have hooked up. Naruto had a smirk across his face, whereas Sakura had a blush across hers before pulling up her vest as much as she could, to cover up the telltale sign. Hinata looked at the couple, understanding that they had actually gotten together as well as the bite mark, a sign of their intimacy. She could feel herself becoming lightheaded before falling backwards, fainting from the shock. Kiba quickly caught the Hyuga, stopping her from making contact with the ground. Naruto was surprised with what was happening. Hinata. Kiba gave a laugh. Don't worry, she'll be fine. Naruto sighed, oblivious as to why she fainted. Shino stood indifferent to the odd occurrence before speaking. Kiba, need I remind you? Kiba, struggling to place Hinata on Akamaru's back properly, quickly answered, interrupting him from finishing. I know. Shino remained calm as he watched alongside with Naruto and Sakura. Kiba, finally having appropriately positioned Hinata, realized his dog's awkward demeanor. Akamaru was looking at Naruto intently with disturbed eyes before he gave out a whimper. What's wrong, Akamaru? Naruto looked at the dog, who was staring at him. He sweated knowing that this was bad. Moving down, he stroked Akamaru's fur. Don't worry. I'm going to be fine. Kiba had a raised eyebrow, questioning the genin. What are you talking about? Naruto grabbed Sakura, walking past their friends. Looking back, he gave a wave. It's nothing. We should get going. You don't want Shino reminding you again. Shino felt a sting at the remark but stood with a calm manner. Kiba scratched the back of his head. That's weird. Come on, it's time to leave. Shino looked at his friend take off with Akamaru following. Turning back towards Naruto's direction, he saw him nearing the Hokage Tower. He wasn't used to seeing Akamaru act in such behavior, but when he did, then there was a cause for concern. Shrugging it off for later, he went in the direction of his teammates. XXXXXXXXXXX. Deodara jumped through the trees at an incredible pace. He could see the end of the forest approaching. The Akatsuki members were currently traveling through the country of grass. Toby, who was trailing behind, and quite tired, quickly spoke. Hey, senpai, can't we use that thing to fly? He was referring to the bird made of clay. Deodara looked back towards the orange-masked man. That thing takes a lot of chakra. Your legs are there for a damn reason, yeah. The annoyance was evident by his speech. Toby sighed before pushing himself to catch up with his partner. We've been running for a full day non-stop. We didn't even get time to recover from the fight with the Rokubi. Deodara ignored the newest member's pleas, staring straight ahead. Stop complaining, yeah. Toby tried again. Why are you in such a rush anyway? We've got 4 weeks until the Chunin exam finals. There's plenty of time. Deodara shook his head. There isn't plenty of time. We've only extracted the shichibi. There's still the rokubi and the hachibi left, yeah. Toby scratched his head. I know, but Zetsu-senpai took the rokubi from us yesterday. He'll be back at the base tomorrow and the hachibi's been collected as well. Both the extractions together would only take around 6 days, which still leaves us with 3 weeks. Toby looked around before noticing something, and I think we're going the opposite way from Konoha. Deodara felt his anger build upon having the mask-wearing member make such a detailed analysis. He was also a little perturbed as to the fact the normally idiotic criminal had seen through his lie rather quickly. Waving a hand at his partner, he spoke. We are going the opposite way. I thought we should head to the country of Waterfall. We'll get some rest and relax for a bit before heading for Konoha. Toby's mood brightened, however, unfortunately due to his tiredness he ended up falling over the next branch and to the hard ground below, face first. Deodara landed next to his partner, now having exited the forest. Get up, you idiot. Toby rolled onto his back. I can't go on. Deodara began to become irritated but knew that he was exhausted. The blonde criminal was feeling tired himself, but he wanted to reach the country of Waterfall by the end of the day. He kicked the lying Toby in his side. The hell you can't, yeah. Toby cringed from the swift kick. Why can't we rest here for a bit? Deodara walked towards the river, staring at the various stones, pointing out, we have to get to our destination by the end of today. Toby sat up, rubbing his side. Senpai, what's so important that we have to get there this urgently? Deodara was fractious by the amount of questions his partner was asking, but he knew that he would have to answer. Coughing, he replied in a barely audible voice, there's a art exhibition taking place. A smirk was across his face before he finished, the explosive kind, yeah. Toby was confused as to what to think. Huh. That's it. Deodara glared with anger in his eyes. The hell? Stop pissing me off, yeah. Toby was surprised as Deodara suddenly jumped at him, grabbing his cloak. The art-appreciating criminal began to drag his partner through the river, making him bounce off the various rocks. Toby quickly protested, Gamen, I didn't mean it. I'm not tired, I can go by myself. His leg grazed the rock as his cloak was soaked. XXXXXXXXXXX. Sunad rubbed her head as she looked through her paperwork. She began to stamp the papers, approving of what she read. She heard a knock on the door before looking up. She heard a voice behind it. Sunad Shisu, can we? The voice was interrupted from finishing as the door flew open, revealing Naruto and Sakura. Naruto walked into the office, ignorant of the death glare he was receiving from the Hokage. There's no need to be so formal, Sakura-chan. Sakura walked in, knowing full well of Sunad's tendency to become irritated when she wasn't treated with the proper respect. She's Naruto's head, Barker. She's the Hokage. Naruto laughed. She's just Sunad Barkan. Sunad's eye twitched with anger upon being referred to like that. What are you doing here, Naruto? Naruto walked near the desk. I wanted a training ground, since Ero Sennin's kind of ruined mine for the time being. Sunad looked at him quizzically before leaning back in her chair. She began to think of a suitable way to help him. After a few minutes, she pulled out a piece of paper from her desk and began to draw on it. Sakura and Naruto leaned forward, curious as to what she was doing. They saw her scribbling on the previously blank piece of paper before looking up, satisfied with her work. Naruto tilted his head, trying to understand what she had drawn. Sunad spoke as the attention of the two ninjas was directed towards her. As you know, the Chunin exams have started today. The exam is split into 3 stages, the written test, the survival test, and finally the main tournament. Naruto folded his arms. What does this have to do with me? Sunad smirked. The written test will probably be finishing soon. The survival test is next. This time, we're going to utilize a test that hasn't ever been used before and was created by one of Konoha's Junin. She pointed at the genin. You're going to be one of the examiners. Sakura had to stop herself from falling over as Naruto stumbled. Nani? What does that have to do with me getting a training ground? Sunad shook her head. The location for the test is Training Area 56, or in other words, she paused before continuing, the Land of Doom. Naruto's eyes widened. What is it with these names? Forest of Death and Land of Doom. Why can't you pick normal names? Naruto finished staring at the busty Hokage. Tsunade coughed. The creator of the test wanted to call it the land of blazing youth, but I didn't think it was appropriate. Anyways, you'll meet him soon enough since he's the one who is the main examiner for the survival test. Naruto was at a loss for words since he still didn't see how this solved his problem. Tsunade recognized the confusion etched across his face. Barker. You wanted a place to train and I gave you one. Naruto stroked his chin, realizing that he would have a lot of space to train. However, something else entered his thoughts as he smiled. Shugoi, I'm the first genin ever to examine a chunin test. He began to laugh. Tsunade sighed. Actually, you're not. Naruto stopped his laughing. Nani? Tsunade rested her chin on her hands. Sasuke is. She ignored the stunned Uzumaki. Since he can't take the chunin exams until his punishment is completed, I put him as an examiner in the written test. There was nothing else for him to do. Tsunade handed Naruto the piece of paper on her desk. This is a map of the area you're going to be in for the next 5 days. Head for the academy and you can go with everybody to the training area at once. Naruto glanced at the paper before bursting out, you just drew this. He paused before shouting again, and I can't understand this. Sakura laughed at the Kyuubi vessel as Tsunade looked displeased. Stop complaining, brat. You're too stupid to understand a real map, so I made it easier for you. Naruto pouted before turning to leave. Fine. He gave Sakura a smile. I'll see you in 5 days. Sakura stopped him from leaving and gave him a K. Naruto, initially surprised, relaxed into it before finishing. Tsunade watched the two happily, knowing that they had sorted out the differences. Naruto separated before coughing. Laters. He walked outside of the office with a shade of red on his face. Sakura turned towards the Hokage, who had a grin across her visage. Tsunade spoke in a joking tone. I see things turned out well, huh? Sakura nodded, blushing. Hi. Her face changed to a more serious expression. Tsunade Shisu, I wanted permission to use your personal library. Tsunade raised an eyebrow at her request. I see, so he's told you. She looked at the unresponsive form of the kunoichi, taking it as a confirmation. You have an idea then? Sakura replied in an analytical manner. At first I thought that we could do an operation to fix his chakra coils. But his whole body has been damaged internally. To do such an operation, it would take over 15 hours. Tsunade nodded, proud of her apprentice's diagnostic ability. The real problem is that we would have to operate when the Kyuubi is not feeding him chakra. However, if he stops, then Naruto would die within the hour. Thus we can't do that. Tsunade let out a sad sigh since she already knew of this. Sakura continued, but something Naruto said intrigued me. The Godime looked at her apprentice. The seal he has was meant to slowly merge his and the Kyuubi's chakra. Kyuubi could heal him, but his body can't withstand too much of his chakra at its current state. Tsunade smiled, realizing where she was going with this. So if we were to somehow boost the growth of his coils to their fully matured state, then the Kyuubi could simply heal him completely. Sakura answered, Hi. Tsunade began to think deeply into the matter. She rested her elbows on the desk before speaking. Something like this is unprecedented. It is also highly unlikely to be possible, but, she smiled as she realized, there is still a small chance it could work. Sakura felt her mood brighten, knowing that there was a possibility. Her determination was as strong as ever and her hope had amplified. XXXXXXXXXXX. Naruto walked through the corridors of the academy, bringing back past memories. He had taken a detour home to pick up some scrolls that he needed for training before eventually heading for the academy. Walking through the final corridor, he came across a familiar set of doors. He had taken his own written exam in the same location. Opening the doors, he walked into the large classroom as everyone directed their attention towards him. From what he could see, there were less than 10 teams remaining. The doors shut behind him as he looked to the opposite side at the seated proctors. He found Sasuke with his attention on him. The troubled state of the Uchiha was clearly visible. Naruto, noticing it, adopted a smile and gave him a wave. Directing his attention to the genins remaining, he was relieved to find the Konohamaru core still seated and, in the case of their leader, a merry expression across his face. Scratching the back of his head, he greeted everyone. Hey, how's it going? Sasuke looked at the optimistic blonde. He could feel his insides becoming distressed with the demeanor his friend was displaying. Ignoring everything else in the room, his attention was solely focused on the Jinchuriki. He knew that Naruto was bothered by what he was going through, evident by their encounter the day before. However, he didn't understand why he was acting overly happy around others. Shikamaru, inwardly confused by Naruto's unexpected appearance, kept his lazy posture. Glancing around the room, his eyes fixed on Sasuke, who, visibly, seemed upset upon seeing Naruto. His previous speculation was proved correct as he realized that the Uchiha's state was connected to Naruto. He began to dwell on his thoughts, thinking of what could be happening with Naruto that would make the unflinching Sharingan wielder show any signs of disturbance. He was broken from his trance as Naruto addressed him, "Oi, Shikamaru. What's going on, have you finished?" Shikamaru turned to the genin. "Yeah, we're waiting for the second examiner." "What are you doing here?" Naruto grinned but was interrupted from speaking as a yell of dynamic entry filled the air. The doors behind Naruto blasted open, making contact with the unsuspecting vessel, sending him rolling across the floor. Naruto sat up, rubbing his back as his vision was blinded by green. In front of him stood the unfathomable Mito guy with his hands on his hips and his trademark smile. The participants in the room sweat dropped upon seeing the awkward display in front of them, whereas Naruto seethed with anger. Guy spoke, unaware of what he had done. "The time has come, for I, Mito Guy, to see." He was stopped from finishing as a wooden piece, of the now broken entrance doors, connected with his head. "At least apologize." Guy rubbed his head before facing the standing offensive Leaf Nin. His eyes widened as he saw Naruto glaring at him, the youthful shinobi that is Naruto. "What are you doing here?" Naruto shouted at the Junin. "I was going to say what I was doing here until you broke that door on my back." Guy gave a nervous laugh at the accusing teen. "Gamen. But, we must not let such little things take away from our prideful selves." Naruto ignored him before turning to Shikamaru. Guy nearly fell over as he saw the disregard for his comments shown by the ninja. "Curse you, Kakashi. You have passed on your hip ways to your students." Naruto talked to the shadow user. "Like I was about to say, I'm a proctor for the second exam." Shikamaru lost his usual demeanor upon hearing that as Guy stopped with his animated rant. The green spandex-wearing Junin swiftly spoke with a loud voice. "I see, so you are the youthful third examiner for my brilliant creation." Naruto instantly faced the taijutsu specialist. "Nani? You're cray, wait, you're the main examiner." Guy gave a thumbs up followed by a sparkling smile. "Of course." Naruto was left speechless as Guy walked past him to address the whole of the class. The remaining genin in this room are the ones who have passed on to the second stage. This first test assessed your information gathering skills and how effective they are. He pointed his finger out at the participants, but this next exam will determine who truly possesses the passion to ascend to the next level of ninja and maybe one day become as youthful as even I. He pointed at himself with his thumb upon finishing and gave a smile. Naruto had to stop himself from faltering as Konohamaru began to speak. "What's the point of the second test?" Guy laughed before answering the Sarutobi's question. "A brilliant question. It is simple. For the next 5 days you are going to survive in a dangerous environment without any outside assistance, and your objective is," he pulled out 3 scrolls from his pouch holding them up for everyone to see, "to obtain a scroll from one of the 3 examiners. Whoever still has a scroll at the end of 5 days, proceeds to the final test." Everybody listened intently as the Junin continued in a serious manner. "This test will pit you against other ninja, and in the case of some of you, against your fellow Leaf comrades. You and ninja, however, do not K each other meaninglessly. Hopefully you will take this advice to heart." Naruto listened to the taijutsu specialist, impressed with his words. Guy nodded to Shikamaru as a signal to begin handing out forms which would take the responsibility off the Hokage if any of the shinobis were to die. Walking to Naruto, he gave him a scroll. "Your task is to protect this scroll from falling in their hands. If they are able to retrieve the scroll from you, then you're not allowed to try and get it back. How you decide to test these candidates is entirely up to you. They don't necessarily have to defeat you." Naruto nodded, pocketing the scroll. Naruto felt proud of having such a responsibility upon his shoulders. A smile was across his face as Guy began to speak. "Follow me, to our destination where the strength of your inner passion will be determined. Let us go to the land of blazing youth." He gave a sparkling smile. Naruto raised an eyebrow at the last statement. Isn't it meant to be the land of doom?" Guy laughed nervously. "Yeah, it is." Naruto ignored the weird Junin as his insides buzzed with excitement. He knew that the next 5 days were going to be interesting. A day had passed since the beginning of the survival test. Naruto wiped the sweat from his forehead as the rest of his clones continued working. He didn't want to draw attention to his location, hence having produced only 100 clones, half of which were working on the Hiraishin no Jutsu and the rest practicing the elemental techniques he knew. Falling back on the grass below him, he took out the map that Tsunade gave him. Unfolding the paper, he looked at the basic map. It was drawn very simply, a round circle wherein there were pictures illustrating various landmarks. There were, altogether 15 entrances, and the examiners were allowed a head start of 5 minutes. At the top there was a river which headed straight through from north to south, however it broke off into 3 parts when it reached the middle. To the top right was a picture of a canyon and bridge surrounded by what looked like poorly drawn traps. The top left, there was a picture of a bamboo forest. The rest of the area was covered in a traditional forest with trees that were over 30 meters in height. Naruto's attention drifted to the bottom right of the map where he had drawn a picture of himself with the victory sign to signify his position. The map, although undemanding, had taken him half of the previous day to understand fully. His position was quite comfortable as he chose to set camp near one of the 3 forks of the river. He knew it wasn't wise to have a set base for where to live, but he was confident of the defense he had built. Staying near a river was an ideal choice since most ninjas wouldn't bother checking those areas, believing no one to be stupid enough to situate there. Naruto inwardly smiled at his psychological tactic. He rose from his seat and walked to the river, washing his face. Having freshened up, he decided to check out the genin teams. He hadn't encountered anyone since he had been here and thought it would be an excellent idea to see how good the teams were. He was also curious to see what the Konohamaru Corps were doing. As far as he knew, there were 7 teams and 3 examiners in the training area. He was one of the examiners as well as Guy, but he didn't know the identity of the remaining ones since he was late to the start of the exam. Naruto stretched his muscles, proud to find that the gravity seal wasn't a problem anymore. He wasn't capable of fighting at his maximum capability, but he was still superior to most Junins in speed. He began to run but stopped abruptly as a fireball passed in front of him, missing him by inches. He turned to his left, an angry expression on his face. Barker. Watch what you're doing. The clone scratched the back of his head upon being reprimanded. Gomen. Naruto shook his head, leaving the clones to their training, as he left the clearing. XXXXXXXXXX. Guy ran through the canyon making sure to avoid any traps. He was being pursued by a team of Rain Nin. The enigmatic Junin had decided to test the teams in various ways. Currently he wanted to see how good their tracking skills were. He had enjoyed his time so far immensely, finding himself to be enthusiastic as well as passionate towards his work. He ran closer to the side of the canyon before jumping on the rugged rock and making his way upwards to the top. The canyon was extremely dry, covered completely in hard rock, and the surface was boiling after having the sun shine on it for so long. Guy flipped to the side, making sure to stick with his chakra as a kunai flew past him. He looked at the 3 shinobi at the base of the canyon, all intently staring at him. Your tracking skills are strong, however you will have to do a lot better if you want to obtain a scroll from the Master of Youth. He smiled, giving a sparkle which added to the effect of the already blinding sun. Turning, he began to run straight to the top as the genin team began to chase him. Avoiding the numerous shuriken, he jumped to his right, straight at one of the genins, before delivering a swift kick to his abdomen, sending him to the canyon floor. Guy quickly grabbed the side of the canyon before beginning to run up it once again, laughing. No one is as youthful as I. No one. XXXXXXXXXX. Naruto jumped through the dense forest swiftly, making sure that his movements made as little sound as possible. He kept an eye on his surroundings to locate any signs of a genin team. As he jumped onto a branch, he stopped. He pulled out the kunai which was embedded into the thick wood. Examining it, he realized that the kunai had just recently been used. He smiled before looking around at the vegetation for any more signs. As he scanned the area, he found an explosive tag attached to one of the trees across from him, as well as a thin piece of string a few feet ahead of him. He threw the kunai, which he had acquired moments ago, at the piece of string. See it. Instantly a thick log flew past him into the tree with the explosive note attached, resulting in a deafening explosion. Naruto jumped out of the way as the tree had a domino effect, making a few more trees collapse along with it, including the one he was standing on. Landing on the ground, he sighed since he would have jumped into the path of the trap if he hadn't stopped. That was close. He was broken from his musings as he turned to catch 3 shuriken in his hand. Quickly flipping to the side, he threw the shuriken back in the direction where they came from. He heard 2 thuds before a muffled gasp followed by the sound of splattering. He focused himself since he knew that he wasn't alone. It's no point in hiding. You gave away your position with your attack. Waiting a few moments, he heard rustling as 3 ninja appeared around him. One of them was injured. Naruto's eyes threatened to fall out as he stared at the attackers who had unveiled themselves. He couldn't believe that he had not recognized their presence in the written exam since they seemed to stick out clearly. Collecting himself, he spoke, "Are you genins?" The 3 shinobi looked at him quizzically before the leader of the team spoke, "Of course. What makes you think we aren't?" Naruto coughed as he replied, "You look a little old to be genin." He stared at the leaf nin, who were all visibly very old compared to the other participants in the exam. The leader of the team was dressed in brown trousers and a white shirt. He covered it up with a green tie and sleeveless sweater. The most distinguishing features were his glasses as well as his thick mustache. He spoke in a calm voice, "My name is Akaman Manabu, I am 41 years old." Naruto's mouth fell on the floor. 41 years old. Manabu straightened his forehead protector which he was wearing on his head. "Yes." Naruto shook his head. "How long have you been taking this exam?" The older shinobi replied in a matured voice, "I am a 21-year veteran of the Chunin exam." Naruto felt his heart rate increase, not believing the amount of shock he was going through. "You haven't passed in 21 years. Manabu closed his eyes, pushing his glasses upwards. "This isn't the first time we have met. I was also a part of the Chunin exam 3 years ago which you took." Naruto scratched the back of his head. "You were?" Manabu nodded. "You were the loudest ninja there." Naruto raised an eyebrow at what he was assuming was an insult. "Is that so?" Inwardly he knew that it was true. Manabu got into a battle stance. "You weren't who we were after, but your scroll is as good as any." Naruto looked at the 3 shinobi who slowly began to circle him. He remained calm as they each threw a kunai at him. Ducking, he let all the kunai pass him overhead, before jumping to his left and delivering a swift kick to one of the genins, making him lose his balance. Quickly taking advantage, he drew his own kunai before grabbing the older shinobi and holding his weapon to his neck. Naruto looked past his hostage at Manabu and the other remaining genin. "Your biggest mistake was revealing yourselves at the beginning. It is obvious that the examiners weren't going to be easy to beat head-on. You should have kept the element of surprise since I'm far stronger than you." Manabu smirked before speaking. "That hostage does you no good. You wouldn't K him." Naruto loosened his grip, bringing his kunai back. "You're right." He delivered a hard elbow to the neck of the unsuspecting genin, knocking him out instantaneously. "But I am going to kick your asses." The unconscious leaf nin fell to the ground. As his body impacted, Naruto disappeared from his position, appearing next to Manabu and his comrade holding a kunai to each of their necks. 21 years and you still haven't learned not to drop your guard." He turned his kunais the opposite way, showing the blunt ends before hitting both the remaining shinobi hardly in their heads. Naruto saw the genin lose consciousness as he put his kunai back into his pouch. He folded his arms, smiling. "I must have looked so cool." He quickly turned, realizing another presence. His eyes widened as he looked at a familiar Junin sitting on a tree branch with his precious orange book in his hand. "Kakashi-sensei. What are you doing here?" XXXXXXXXXX. The Konohamaru Corps had spent the last hour roaming the bamboo forest, which they were now regretting entering. Udon walked forwards, moving the bamboo tree out of his way. "I think we're back where we started." Konohamaru instantly stopped in his tracks. He turned, pointing at his glasses-wearing friend. "Kuso, we've been going in circles for, I don't know, but you're supposed to be good at these things." Udon pushed up his glasses. "This forest is like a maze. It's hard to understand where to go." They could go straight, however they found that the forest would get extremely dense if you continued in one direction. It seemed as if it was deliberately set up to test their navigational skills. Mogi played with her hair. "Konohamaru-kun, don't worry. I'm sure we'll get out of here." The Sarutobi ignored the girl before sitting down. At this rate, we'll have to fight one of the other teams to get a scroll. He punched the ground. I wanted to fight Naruto Naichin. Udon folded his arms. I don't think we have to worry about fighting other teams. It seems that the specific reason for us to try and acquire a scroll from one of the examiners is to see whether we really have the potential to be Chunins. Konohamaru looked at the glasses wearing genin. Barker. What if all the teams in here have the potential? We'll have to fight them then, wouldn't we? Mogi began to think. I'm not sure everyone could have the potential. And why is Naruto Naichin an examiner? I think he became one to test us. Konohamaru shook his head. Of course. It's the job of the examiners to test us. Udon shook his head, disagreeing with their team leader. I think Mogi means that Naruto specifically wants to test us. It is weird for another genin to be an examiner, isn't it? Konohamaru looked around whilst thinking over their words. He got to his feet, throwing his long blue scarf around him. Hey, I think you're right. There's no way Naruto Naichin would pass anyone else. If anybody's going to get his scroll, it's going to be us. Pulling out a kunai, the Sarutobi walked to the bamboo tree before exiting it and making it fall. Udon looked at the genin with curiosity. What are you doing? Konohamaru rubbed his nose. I'm going straight through this damn forest. And I don't care if I have to take down half of it with me. He see a few more trees, making them fall in different directions. Jumping over them, he began to as many trees as he could. His arm was beginning to ache. Udon, Mogi. Stop standing there and help out. He never got a response. The genin turned to find his friends looking at something which he couldn't see due to some fallen trees obstructing his view. Walking over towards them, he wanted to see what had caught their attention. His eyes widened as he saw 3-leaf nin tied up and unconscious. Nani? Udon turned to his friend. I'm guessing they encountered one of the examiners. Konohamaru scratched his head. We should take advantage of this. Mogi raised an eyebrow as she looked at the team leader questioningly. Konohamaru waved off the weird expressions of his friends. We should see if they've got anything valuable that we could use. We'll untie them after so they can make their own way out eventually. The three nodded before salvaging any useful items from the unconscious team. XXXXXXXXXXX. Kakashi looked towards the blonde, giving a small wave. Yo, he jumped off the branch to the ground before walking towards Naruto, still engrossed in his book. I'm an examiner. Naruto was visibly confused. They made you an examiner. A chunin would have been enough. The ex-Anbu nodded. You're right, but Guy insisted that I take part. The copy nin turned a page in his book. You know, you've just knocked out the genin team I was planning on testing. Naruto scratched the back of his head. Gomen, they did attack me first though. Kakashi looked up from his book with his one exposed eye. That is true. He looked at the unconscious leaf nin. If you continue like this, you're not going to pass anyone. Naruto shook his head. I've already got my sights set on a particular team. If I'm going to pass anyone, it's going to be them. Kakashi turned his attention back to his book to continue reading. I see. Naruto stared at the Junin. What about you? Kakashi sighed before speaking. Well, I came across 2 teams yesterday, but I don't think they were ready. A few hours ago I was in the canyon when a team of rain nin began a fight with me. All was going well until Guy showed up. Naruto raised an eyebrow, and Kakashi stared intently at the pages of his mature novel. Well, he said something about the youthfulness of green spandex to them. I wasn't really listening, but soon after the rain nin began to chase him, leaving me to go find another team. Naruto laughed as he thought of the taijutsu specialist. He scratched his head. Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi walked towards a tree before leaning against it. Yeah. Naruto tapped his chin. I was wondering why they didn't use the Forest of Death like all the other times. Kakashi continued reading whilst he spoke. The last time it was used, a lot of events occurred which were uncontrollable. Orochimaru's interference was something that no one will ever forget. It was decided soon after Tsunade-sama became Hokage, that the survival test would have to change in order for us to have more direct control over what happens. Naruto clenched his teeth as he heard of the Naudi Sannin. He ignored his growing anger as Kakashi resumed speaking. I think out of all the tests that we've used over the past 2 years, this one is the best. Having 3 examiners inside the testing area allows us to make sure everything is in order, as well as deciding who really has the potential to become a chunin. Naruto was surprised to hear those words come from the masked man's mouth. He adopted a serious expression. Guy-sensei deserves the credit he'll receive for thinking of this. Kakashi nodded as both shinobi turned their attention towards the trees, feeling a large chakra signature heading towards them. A few moments later, a green blur jumped out of the trees, landing in the middle of the small decimated clearing. Guy smiled, giving a vibrant sparkle. Kakashi, my eternal rival, finally I have found you. He noticed Naruto looking at him. Ah. This is great. Naruto-kun is also here. This saves me a lot of time. Naruto didn't understand what was going on, whereas Kakashi wasn't paying any attention. Both shinobi replied concurrently and obliviously, huh. The enigmatic Guy quickly recoiled. Why must you be so hip? Naruto stared at the taijutsu specialist as he slowly collected himself. Guy spoke in a sincere tone. I have come to challenge both of you. Naruto fell over when he heard the eccentric Junin. Kakashi abandoned his position, walking towards the two shinobi. I don't think we have time to take challenges. We have a task to do. Guy folded his arms. That is correct, my youthful rival, but this challenge relates to our duties as examiners. Naruto got up from the ground, dusting the dirt from his clothes. What kind of challenge is it? Guy smiled before pointing at the two ninja. Whoever holds onto their scroll the longest is the winner. Naruto brightened over the idea. Shugoi, hey, I'll leave you both in the ground. Kakashi gave a wave. Sounds reasonable. Guy gave a thumbs up, knowing they had accepted the idea. However, he stopped himself from leaving upon noticing the mature novel that Kakashi was reading. He quickly pointed at the recognizable book. No. My eternal rival has resorted to reading such unbecoming books. Kakashi looked up from his book. It's quite good. You should read it. He moved the book forward to the taijutsu specialist. Guy couldn't believe what he had just heard the Sharingan user suggest. He gripped his hair with his hands. Oh my god. Naruto took a bite out of the apple he was eating. There wasn't much to eat in the training area, and he found himself only having some fruit and fish to eat. Luckily for him, his impatience with the food would end today, since it was the last day of the survival test. The Jinchuriki continued jumping through the trees towards his base. The past week had certainly been interesting ever since finding the Konohamaru core on his second day as an examiner. He couldn't help but laugh at the genins when he found them in the bamboo forest. From the state that the trees were in, he assumed that they had tried to wrest their way straight through the maze-like jungle. However, their plan had backfired, with them completely blocking the way out from one side due to the entanglement of the vegetation. He had taunted the genins to make them pursue him. He had enjoyed that day immensely as he made them give up out of exhaustion. The game of chase had lasted for over 4 hours before the sun had begun to set. Naruto had decided to head back to camp since it was getting so late, but being the kind person he was, he led the Konohamaru core out of the forest before eventually returning to his base. Nonetheless, his actions weighed heavily on Konohamaru's mind, as the team of rookie genin had once again found him the day after. Naruto was already occupied with another team of Leaf Nin when they came to exact revenge upon him. He had gotten out of the predicament by making both teams an offer. Whoever won in a head-to-head fight would receive Naruto's scroll. The Konohamaru core showed great teamwork, and it was their familiarity and understanding of each other that helped them win. Nevertheless, Naruto didn't give them the scroll, seeing as he didn't believe strength really determined who should become a Chunin. That had really angered Konohamaru, who ended up giving a verbal tirade about fairness. Naruto laughed it off and ran away from them once again. Yesterday, he had set up extra traps in the canyon to add to the 50 or so traps already there. He then went to find the Sarutobi and his team to lure them to his creation. The only problem was that after having looked around the area for 2 hours, he couldn't find the team anywhere. He ended up going back to his original location in the canyon, and sure enough he found the Sarutobi in the midst of his well-placed traps. Naruto just ended up laughing at them and leaving to train for the rest of the day. Luckily for him, he didn't have many problems with people discovering his training location. He had set up a few clones to patrol, and they had got rid of any teams that were getting too close to his base, either by luring them away or engaging them in a fight. As for his fellow examiners, he had only met them on a few occasions. They all still had their scrolls. Kakashi seemed to be interested in the team from Sunagaku, whereas Guy was still being targeted by a team of Rain Nin. He didn't know what made the foreign ninja so hostile towards the taijutsu specialist, but he was guessing they weren't happy with whatever Guy had done or suggested to them. He looked at the sky, where the sun had still to reach the highest point. He needed to hurry up. He wanted to head back to his base and see how the clones were proceeding with the training so he could quickly find the Konohamaru Corps. Last he had seen them today, they had tried to ambush him, but Naruto quickly turned the tables on them and threw them in the large river. He didn't know where the current had taken them, but he would have to find them and proceed in giving them his final test since time was of the essence. Jumping through a few more trees, he stopped as he felt a rush of information flash through his mind. His eyes widened as he realized what had happened. One of his clones had dispelled himself to inform him of the situation at his base. It looked like the current had sent the Sandaim's grandson and his team to his training area. They had succeeded in destroying one of his clones. He didn't see what happened after because that was when the clone dispelled himself. He quickened his pace. Kuso, what did my clones ever do to you? The QB vessel jumped as fast as he could whilst the seal was active to reach his base. He had a serious demeanor as he saw the end of the forest ahead. Avoiding his traps, he jumped past the last tree, propelling himself into his base. He looked towards his clones, finding them all circled around something. He counted how many there were and was relieved to find that only 2 were missing, the one that had been destroyed and the one that had dispelled himself. He walked towards their location, hearing screams from in the middle. All the clones moved out of the way on his instruction, revealing the Konohamaru Corps being held down. Naruto laughed. What happened? He spoke mockingly. Konohamaru had his arms held behind his back and was lying on his front, unable to move. I'm going to kick your ass, Naruto Naichin. Naruto waved off the angriness of the genin. Really? It seems to me you've already had your ass kicked. Udon spoke to calm down his team leader. I don't think it's wise to make threats. We're in no position to do so. Konohamaru turned his head slightly to glare at his teammate. Shut up, you wimp. Naruto laughed at him again, which only caused the Sarutobi to become even more incensed. You should listen to him. Mogi, who was also incapable of moving, attempted to defuse the situation. Konohamaru-kun, I'm sure everything will be alright. Konohamaru couldn't believe this. They had been tricked repeatedly by the Uzumaki and he still hadn't got a chance to test his skills against him. Fight me, Naruto Naichin. I'm sick of your games. His teammates looked on, not sure of whether that was a good idea, whereas Naruto raised an eyebrow. You still haven't learnt. Konohamaru had a confused expression. Huh. Naruto shook his head. Who said I've been playing games? The genin team listened intently as he resumed. Everything I've done so far has been to test you. Mogi was the one to ask a question. What do you mean, Naruto Naichin? In the bamboo forest, I wanted to see your determination and how strong your will to never give up is. When you fought against the other genin team, I was hoping you would realize that strength isn't the only requirement to become a chunin. And the traps at the canyon were to see how well you worked together with your friends. The fact that you remained alive means your trust between each other is strong. The Konohamaru Corps looked astounded as they hadn't realized each of their encounters had a hidden meaning behind them. Naruto closed his eyes as he continued speaking. You did well in 2 of the tests and totally missed the point in one of them. That isn't too bad, but the most important test is now. Naruto nodded to the clone holding Konohamaru down. The clone moved away from the Sarutobi, allowing him to move. Naruto turned to the rest of his miniature army, telling them to resume their training, only leaving him and the 2 clones that held Konohamaru's teammates. Konohamaru straightened his scarf. What about Udon and Mogi? Konohamaru was shocked with the blonde's actions. What are you doing? Naruto had a serious expression. This is the final test. Fight me like your team's life depended on it. Konohamaru didn't have time to protest as Naruto instantly appeared next to him, punching him in the face. The unsuspecting genin fell a few feet back from the force of the punch as his teammates looked on, worried for him. Konohamaru slowly rose to his feet. He wiped the bee that had begun to protrude from his mouth before looking at the boy he admired. Naruto stood with a stern expression, his usual joking attitude nowhere to be seen. The Jinchuriki spoke calmly. What's wrong? You wanted to fight me, didn't you? Konohamaru looked on, determined, before running towards the blonde. He began to throw punches at Naruto, hoping to connect. Naruto dodged the punches, making sure he wasn't hit before he sidestepped the Sarutobi and grabbed his arm. He smirked as he threw him. Konohamaru was taken by surprise as he felt himself being launched away through the air. He grabbed his scarf before throwing it around Naruto's neck. The blue scarf took a tight hold around the blonde's neck as the Sarutobi pulled himself back to land a punch. Naruto didn't suspect the scarf to be used in such a way, but his shock didn't last long. He withdrew a kunai quickly the scarf into 2 pieces. Konohamaru was still heading towards Naruto and threw a punch to his face. Naruto simply turned before kicking him hardly, sending him sprawling across the ground. Naruto formed seals within seconds before calling out, Kaiten Hosenka no Jutsu. Multiple balls of fire were shot from his mouth towards Konohamaru. He looked on, anxious to see what the Sarutobi was capable of. Konohamaru was shocked to see the multiple targets heading towards him. Not having time to do a technique of his own, he began to evade as many as he could. Unfortunately for him, one still managed to strike him on his arm, burning him. Naruto took out 3 shuriken and threw them at the distracted shinobi, who was now holding his arm, gasping in pain. The weapons see him across his legs, making him fall to his knees. Konohamaru's body was racked with pain as he struggled to stand. His teammates looked on, fearful for their team leader and friend. Naruto folded his arms. Is that all you have? Is that all you can give for your friends? Konohamaru couldn't believe what was happening. He was being decimated and Naruto wasn't taking it easy on him at all. He moved his hands to the shuriken embedded in his legs, pulling them out and causing his bi to spatter. He slowly struggled to his feet as he remembered the Sandaime, I will prove myself worthy. Naruto raised an eyebrow as the younger ninja charged him, ignoring the pain. Konohamaru put all his strength into his punches as he tried to hit the Jinchuriki. Naruto was inwardly smiling at the younger ninja's determination. He dodged an oncoming punch before trying to sweep his legs from under him. Konohamaru jumped up before spinning and trying to land one of his own kicks. Naruto brought his elbow up, defending the attack before driving his fist into the Sarutobi's stomach. Not giving Konohamaru a chance to recover, he grabbed his leg and threw him, resounding in a large impact when the 12-year-old made contact with the ground. Naruto looked at the unmoving genin. I've got a proposal for you. Konohamaru turned onto his front as he pulled up his knees to help him stand. He faced Naruto, staggering a little. Bi leaked from his nose and mouth. What kind of proposal? Naruto smiled. I'll give you the scroll and you'll make it to the tournament. Udon and Moeji's eyes widened, whereas Konohamaru knew there was a catch. What's the price? Naruto pointed back at his teammates with his thumb. They won't make it through, only you. Udon looked at his friend to find him staring in the direction of him and Mogi. He cleared his voice before speaking, take it. Konohamaru's mouth fell open, but he didn't have time to protest as Mogi spoke. He's right. This is more important to you. We'll always have next year. Naruto looked at the younger genin, waiting for him to make a decision. Inwardly he was proud of Udon and Mogi and the support they were showing their comrade. All that remained was the Sarutobi's decision. Well. Konohamaru looked at the ground. Bringing his hand up to his mouth, he wiped away the bi. He looked at Naruto. No. Naruto stared impassively while Udon and Mogi were astonished by what he had done. Whoever breaks the rules in the shinobi world is trash, but whoever abandons their friends is worse than trash. Naruto smiled as he heard the genin. We got this far as a team and we'll finish this as a team. Naruto stared at the boy he considered a younger brother. He felt content that he understood the importance of friendship. Reaching into his pouch, he took out the scroll before throwing it at his feet. Konohamaru gazed at the still scroll, confused. He was broken from his thoughts as Naruto spoke. You all pass. The Konohamaru Corps all had awkward expressions on their faces. Konohamaru addressed the older shinobi. Why? Naruto closed his eyes as he spoke. As your rank increases, so does the responsibility on your shoulders. He opened his eyes, resuming, if you don't understand how important it is not to leave your friends behind, what good will you be as a leader on a mission? His shadow clones let go of the Konohamaru's teammates. Udon and Mogi showed you support even if it meant they wouldn't get through to the final stage of the exams. He walked towards them smiling. It takes courage to be selfless. The Konohamaru Corps listened to the older shinobi. They had never seen him talk so seriously, but their respect for the person they considered as their older brother increased as they listened. Naruto walked towards Konohamaru. You wanted to make it to the finals more than anything. You wanted to remind everyone that you were proud to be a Sarutobi, even though you wanted it so badly, you were willing to let go of your desires for your friends. He placed his hand on the younger shinobi's shoulder. Oji-san would be proud to have you as his legacy. Konohamaru looked at Naruto as he finished. There isn't anyone better that could have been named after Konoha. Konohamaru's eyes began to water as he looked at Naruto, who had a heartwarming smile across his face. Naruto looked at the sky, realizing the sun was nearing the highest point. We should go. There isn't much time left. The Jinchuriki dispelled his clones, shaking momentarily as all the experience they had attained rushed into him. Fortunately, he had only created 100 clones to train with, so he didn't end up collapsing. He motioned for the Konohamaru Corps to follow as he walked away from his momentary base. Konohamaru stared after his teammates and Naruto as they walked away. He felt happy inside and wiped away the tears from his eyes. His admiration and respect for Naruto had increased to a whole new level, and he felt proud that he had met him. You're wrong, Naruto Naichan. There is someone better. You. XXXXXXXXXXX. Deidara picked up his cup of sake to drink. Finishing, he placed it back on the table before pulling his hat down, trying to cover his face. He stared at his partner, who was busy polishing his newly acquired medal. Their trip to the art exhibition didn't go as planned. They arrived on time, however. Deidara, wanting to show off his art, performed a demonstration which the organizers weren't very fond of. Instead, they ended up giving Toby a medal for visiting art extraordinaire, due to the design of his mask. This led to Deidara being infuriated even more than he was originally and destroying the whole exhibition, which resulted in the country of Waterfall knowing of the Akatsuki's presence and hence sending lots of shinobi after them. The Akatsuki members decided to retreat since they didn't want to start a war. They ended up returning to the country of grass and were currently in a restaurant in one of the many small villages. Deidara looked at his criminal partner. Put the damn thing away, yeah. Toby looked at him with confusion. I'm just polishing it. Deidara snorted. You're attracting unwanted attention. The blonde shifted slightly in his seat. Toby didn't understand and looked past his partner to see a young girl pulling at her mother's dress and pointing at him. Toby waved at the girl, causing his art-appreciating partner to speak. What the hell are you doing, idiot? Toby attached his medal to his cloak before responding, nothing. Deidara shook his head before he felt someone approaching. He looked from the corner of his eye to see the little girl make her way over to them. His eyes widened before he spoke to Toby heatedly. You dumbass, look what you did, yeah. Toby ignored him as the girl approached. She stopped at their table before he spoke. How can I help you? Deidara scoffed but remained silent and turned to the side, not wanting to include himself. The young girl fidgeted before she spoke in a quiet voice. I was wondering if, she looked directly at the S-class criminal with a smile, I could have your mask. Deidara nearly fell over as he heard her request while Toby was taken aback. He couldn't believe what she had asked. He answered quickly, no. Deidara's eyes widened, but he began to worry when he saw the young girl begin to water up. He knew that they couldn't afford attention directed towards them. Without thinking, he formed one of his clay sculptures in the shape of a swan and gave it to the little girl. Forget about the crap that he's wearing. This is much better, yeah. His insult caused Toby to point a finger at his medal, but the criminal quickly realized the sculpture within the girl's hands. The girl thanked Deidara before pulling out her tongue at his partner and walking back to her mother merrily. Deidara left the restaurant whilst Toby stared at the sculpture, stuttering. He rose from his seat, running after his partner. He caught up to Deidara. Senpai, she's just a little girl. Deidara waved off his concern. Don't worry, it's normal, yeah. Toby sighed before laughing. I thought you were going to blow up everything again. Deidara turned to the eccentric criminal. Shut up and put on your hat. That crap on your face is causing trouble, yeah. Toby once again pointed at his medal, which angered the blonde criminal. Deidara ripped the medal of his cloak before throwing it far away. That medal doesn't mean anything, yeah. Toby stared at his medal flying through the air as he lost sight of it. NOOOOOO. XXXXXXXXXX. Naruto and the Konohamaru exited the land of doom into a plain clearing of grass. The Jinchuriki was surprised to find that there was around 40 shinobi present, including the Godime. He saw Kakashi standing and reading his book. Turning, he spoke to the genin with him, hand in your scroll and they'll tell you what to do next. They nodded before making their way over to the Chunins. Naruto walked over to the masked pervert. Oi, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi looked up from his book and gave a wave. Yo. Naruto folded his arms. Where's the rest of the teams? There's only 3 here. Kakashi continued reading. They've already left since they didn't get a scroll. Naruto nodded, acknowledging his response, but was off from speaking when he heard a cry fill the air. Kakashi. Naruto nearly fell over as Guy made his way over to the 2 shinobi. Kakashi turned a page in his special edition of Ica Ica Paradise, unfazed by the large volume of the Junin. Guy stopped in front of his fellow examiners before speaking. I am here in all my beauty, and confident that my blistering fire of youth has helped me win our challenge. Naruto shook his head, not understanding what he had said, whereas Kakashi ignored him, preferring to read his book. Guy smiled. How long were you able to hold your scrolls, my comrades? Naruto scratched his head. Well, I passed mine on about 10 minutes ago. Kakashi sighed before speaking unemotionally. Guess that means I lost since I gave mine to the team from Sunagakure this morning. Silence passed over the 3 shinobi as no one spoke. Guy, still smiling, broke the peace. Is no one going to ask my youthful self? He continued, not giving him a chance to respond. It seems I am the winner because, he drew his scroll from his pouch, giving a thumbs up. I still have my scroll. Naruto's eyes widened while Kakashi spoke in a knowing tone. You were meant to pass one of the teams, Guy. Hokage-sama won't be pleased. Guy laughed nervously. That doesn't matter because, he looked around to find the team of Rain Nin giving him a death glare. I have found the team that I believe is youthful enough to receive a scroll from me, those who haven't stopped pursuing me since the beginning of these marvelous exams. Naruto saw Guy run to the team of Rain Nin and give them a scroll, however they didn't let up on their irate look. He shrugged and made his way over to where the Godime was since they were deciding the matchups for the main tournament. He stopped when a flash of pink caught his hair. In front of him was none other than the apprentice of the Godime with a smile across her face, Sakura-chan. What are you doing here? Sakura's visage lost its pleasantness upon the awkward greeting she received. Barker. I came here to see you. Naruto scratched the back of his head. Gomen, I didn't mean it like that. The medic Nin sighed. It doesn't matter. She was interrupted from resuming as a kunai flew past her towards Naruto. Naruto moved his head to the side as the kunai missed him, but felt someone grab him from behind and hold another kunai to his neck. Is this what training with one of the legendary Sannin turned you into? I'm kind of disappointed. Naruto turned his head slightly and was greeted with purple hair belonging to an older woman. He instantly recognized her as the lady who oversaw his Chunin exam and had seen him. He shouted rather loudly, You. Anko grinned before licking his cheek. I just wanted to thank you for what you did to Orochimaru. Sakura's eyes widened as she saw the special Junin lick Naruto. Shanaro. I'm going to rip that tongue out. The pink-haired ninja began to put on her gloves but stopped when she saw what Naruto had done. Anko wiped the smirk from her face as she felt something being pointed at her back. Ha! He laughed. It's a shadow clone. Naruto put away his kunai as his clone dispelled itself. It was Tsunade Barken and Ero Sennin who K him, not me. Anko tapped her chin. That's true, but you're the one who stopped him from taking the other brat's body. It's good to know that he wasn't able to get what he wanted. Anko looked over to Sakura and found her glaring. She laughed before adopting a smirk. Are you angry that I touched your man? Naruto raised an eyebrow whereas Sakura looked ready to explode from her candor. She collected herself. Want to find out? Anko laughed before jumping back while Sakura finished putting on her gloves. Naruto, realizing what was about to happen, quickly moved in the way of Sakura grabbing her. She's just trying to make you angry. The tense situation was diffused as the Godime made her way over to the 3 shinobi. Anko, stop wasting time and go help the others. Anko gave a wave to Naruto and Sakura before making her way over to the Chunins. Naruto wiped his forehead, sighing. That was close. Tsunade smiled at the genin. So how was it? Naruto realized that she was talking about the exams. He folded his arms. Piece of cake. Tsunade inwardly smiled. She could tell that he had enjoyed his time as an examiner. She was hoping that he would relax once in a while to enjoy himself rather than always indulge in training. She closed her eyes. I expected you to say that. Naruto laughed before he realized the demeanor of the kunoichi next to him. Sakura was visibly angry and glaring in the direction of Anko. Sakura-chan. She didn't respond, busy with glaring at the purple-haired special Junin who was now barking orders at some of the Chunin. Naruto's stomach rumbled before he grabbed Sakura and began to lead her away from the area. Looking back, he gave a wave to the Hokage, later Tsunade Barkan. Sakura was surprised to find herself being led away from everyone else. Naruto, what are you doing? Naruto grinned before answering, well, you came here to see me, didn't you? I'm hungry and I wanted some company while I eat. Sakura smiled before speaking teasingly, did you miss me that much? Naruto stopped, tilting his head, no, not really. He saw the kunoichi about to burst before he finished, I'm just kidding. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.